Good morning. My name is Reverend Kylie Renner, and on behalf of the entire One Spiritual Center community, thank you for being here today. And whoa, we got some reverb all of a sudden. Hi. I think that was Zephyr. Hi. Let's try that again. On behalf of the entire One Spiritual Center community, thank you for being here with me in my front yard this morning. Thank you for bringing your presence and your love into this space. I cannot hear myself. Can you hear me? Nope. We'll get there. This one isn't Zephyr, but Dottie's yelling at you, Zephyr. Come on, Zephyr. He can't hear you, so I have to tell him. Are we good? It's better. Can you hear me online? That's a good question. Online we can hear you, so it's here. Can you hear me now? No. We're good. Okay, I'm going to keep talking. I don't know what I'm going to say, but, is it better? Yay, wonderful. So just let us know, because, things happen. Technology is our friend. That's what I'm going to keep on saying today. Technology is our friend. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for joining me in my front yard. It's so nice to see some faces I have not seen for a while. What a glorious thing. So I want to let you know a couple things, and one is that the closest bathroom is right through that door that's open right there, and it has been disinfected this morning and ready for use. So if you need to go, that's the closest place. And I want to, before I start, give a shout out to someone who was here last week and who heard me complaining or mentioning and using it as a sermon illustration, the fact that these trees had been full of some dead branches that I knew needed to come out, and watching the hawks use them as nesting material, and this whole sense of, well, healing happens when it needs to happen and in a different way maybe than my timing, but apparently he thought it was an invitation to trim my trees. So Monday morning, Chad was out here, and he did a great job. So thanks, Chad. So we got our trees trimmed without knowing that it was going to happen. And sometimes that's how healing works too. So thanks for that. And I have to tell you, I'm feeling a little beat up this morning. And, I think it's really interesting, like just the waves of all of the things that are going on, and the grief and the loss, and just it sometimes just feels really big. And so I'm feeling it this morning, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the project we're working on, because I somehow think I can make it work on oneness right now. But I realize that sometimes we just got to give in to that feeling, right? Like it just feels really big right now. All of the things we're being asked to look at, all of the things that are being asked to transform, it just feels really big right now. And I just know that the presence and the power of the One is with us in it. And that's where I'm letting my experience be this morning. So thank you for being here. We're going to start with some prayer. So if you're feeling comfortable closing your eyes, I just ask you to bring yourself present here today to all of that is going on inside and around us. Here in this space right now, we can hear the birds and the trees, and the sound of passing cars, and we can feel the warmth of this day. And as I bring myself present to this, I recognize that Spirit is running in and through and as all of it. And it connects it all to some bigger place inside that breathes and lives and moves. With a wisdom and a rhythm and a love that is so big, and it is bigger than my mind can comprehend. And so I just know that Spirit is moving us today from that place of the surface level to that deeper place inside of us, guiding us to that healing, to that opening, to our own availability to hear our wisdom and our love and our connection. And so I'm just grateful in advance for all that we get to see and experience and feel together today. I know that Spirit is present here. And so I just lean into that. And Let Spirit take whatever it needs to take so that we may know and remember exactly what we need to right here and now. I let it be. And so it is. To prepare for our meditation this morning, I've chosen a poem by Mary Oliver entitled One. The mosquito is so small, it takes almost nothing to ruin it. Each leaf the same. And the black ant hurrying, so many lives, so many fortunes. Every morning I walk softly and with forward glances down to the ponds and through the pine woods. Mushrooms even have but a brief hour before the slug creeps to the feast, before the pine needle down under the bundles of harsh, beneficent rain. How many make up the world? And then I think of that old idea, the singular and the eternal. One cup in which everything is swirled back to the color of sea and sky. Imagine it. A shining cup, surely. In the moment in which there is no wind over your shoulder, you stare down into it, and there you are. Your own darling face, your own eyes. And then the wind, not thinking of you, just passes by, touching the ant, the mosquito, the leaf. And you know what else? How blue is the sky? How blue is the sky? How blue and tiny and redeemable everything is, even in you, even your eyes, even your imagination. And so we just take this sense of the many and the one, and we're going to allow the meditation to move us today.
to try a new tune today that we just recorded on Friday, and it's a brand new tune, and we're going to give it a shot. It has no name. No, no songs have any names that I write. Ready, guys? One, two, three. Thank you.
Wow. Do you guys realize how special it is that we just got to hear the world premiere of that beautiful composition of Sid's? Wow. Thank you. Thank you for blessing us with that. I can't wait to hear the recording, too. They've been recording together. It's very exciting. So I don't know about you, but I've been thinking a lot about how do we get out of this place that we're in. Because in a lot of ways, it feels like we're just getting deeper. Like we keep on doing the same thing, ignoring the things that we have been ignoring, and we're experiencing the consequences of that. And how do we get out of it? And the only thing that I keep coming back to is that I can figure out is the way we get through this is oneness. The way we get to the other side is somehow encompassing the values of oneness in this deeper way. Because it's become increasingly clear, these principles that we've talked about for years in spiritual communities are obviously so true when we're facing a global health crisis. Because your health is my health on some deep level. What you do affects what happens in my life. It happens everywhere, in every direction, and it's easy to see when we're being required to do things like wear masks and stay away from each other and change some of our patterns that obviously the ways that we're being in the world affect the ways that other people get to be. And it's all connected, and it's so glaringly obvious, but that also means if we understand that we have to practice some principles that underlie that, because it no longer works for me to act like what I do doesn't affect other people. It doesn't work for me to pretend that the way that I relate to the world is just mine and that it doesn't involve other people and systems. So this is something that's been known forever, and Aesop's Fables has a story about it, a story about 4 oxen and the lion. And the story tells us what happens when we forget that we're one. And so the story is about a lion who used to prowl about a field in which 4 oxen were dwelling. And many, many times this lion tried to attack the oxen, but whenever he came near, they turned all their tails to one another, so that wherever he approached, he was met by the horns of one of them. But as happens, the oxen started to fight with one another, and they went off into the pastures alone by themselves, and each had their own separate corner of the field. And the lion was then able to attack them one by one, and soon made an end to all 4 of them. And so this story is a story that's supposed to be a cautionary tale about what happens when we forget that we have to be united, right? That we have to figure out how it is that we be together so that we can move together from that space of oneness. And I don't know about you, but it's becoming increasingly clear that if we do not figure this out, that there are real consequences to this. There are real consequences as we watch the pictures of schools in Georgia opening, or what's happening, the motorcycle rally in Sturgis. There's consequences to these choices that get made, and they affect everything. And so how do we get to this place where we're operating out of recognizing that we must find a way? We must find a way back to that place where we remember that we are one, because if we don't, that we will then continue just to rinse and repeat this sense of getting deeper and deeper into crisis mode. And so I was thinking back to some study I did about the principles behind alchemy, which I find so interesting, this idea that you can turn whatever's in front of you into something new. And there's a statement or a concept in alchemy called solve et coagula. And it's fun to say, but what it means is this process of separating things so that they can be put back together. And in alchemy, this is the separating so that they can be put back together into a more unified whole. And so I've been thinking about that from the perspective of what's going on around us, but also from the sense of what happens inside of us. How do we separate ourselves from that which is no longer serving us so that we can put ourselves together again in a more unified whole? So that we can be united with ourselves as much as we are united with the one. Like, how do we bring ourselves into that kind of alignment? Because I noticed that even as much as I want to make what's going on in the world about someone else, I can't, right? If I'm working on the principles of oneness, I have to bring it back to myself. And I have to bring it back to the principle of how is it that I am operating in the world? Where am I divided against myself? Where have I allowed myself to forget who I really am? And where have I allowed myself to buy into that which is less than? And so Parker Palmer wrote a great book several years ago. And the title of the book is A Hidden Wholeness, The Journey Toward an Undivided Life. And he says that some of the ways that we divide ourselves against ourselves are actually hard to look at if we're really being willing to do this powerfully. And he says that it's a very confrontational process to actually look at where we've divided ourselves against ourselves, because we see things that are hard to see. So what he says is that some of the symptoms of this, the ways that we self-destruct and become divided against ourselves, is that we refuse to invest in our work, diminishing its quality and distancing ourselves from those it is meant to serve. We make our living at jobs that violate our basic values, even when survival doesn't absolutely demand it. We remain in settings or relationships that steadily kill off our spirits. We harbor secrets to achieve personal gain at the expense of other people. We hide our beliefs from those who disagree with us to avoid conflict, challenge, and change. And we conceal our true identities for fear of being criticized, shunned, or attacked. And when I reread that list, I realized that there are some deeper ways in which that lives in me, and that there is this sense in which, in order to be part of that oneness that I know will heal us and will move us to the place where I know we can go, it will require a deeper look at that, a deeper look at where that division is, and where I have separated myself from myself, so that there can be real healing. So we've been working on this project around here. Our plans have changed over and over this year, as everyone's has, and we had intended to start a fairly major building project that just got put on hold. So we intend to build a beautiful 3-car garage in the back where my garden is, if you've passed by that area, and just not happening right now, not happening this summer. So we've shifted plans, but one of the things that we do know we need is some extra room, because we've been moving ourselves into smaller and smaller parts of our house. So if you don't know, we share our house with Airbnb guests, and so almost all of our house is actually for our guests, and very little of it now is for us. And we have lots of furniture, if you know my husband, and so I keep going, like it keeps getting smaller and smaller. So we decided that the next step is to build some more storage in the back that hopefully will be able to be used in some way for our next project. But what was required in order to do that is to clear the stuff that was left behind. And so in the process of doing this and having our plans change, we had to not only remove some plants, but then we also had to remove the fact that at some point, some owners, this is one of those houses that is one of those neighborhoods that had one of those trash corrals, where you would put your trash cans in a little hole in a fence and bring it out from there. And so they had one of those here. Well, you wouldn't have known it because they covered it up from one side, but then they just left it there. And then they filled it up with all kinds of random block from somewhere else in the project and just left it there. And so we've been dealing with clearing that out, and we're actually grateful because we get to reuse it. So it's not that big of a deal that it was there, but that it needs to be moved. But what I realized was this was such an amazing analogy for some of the healing work that we've done in our own lives. It's like we've gotten so far, we decided, oh, that trash corral, that's obsolete. We don't need that anymore. But instead of actually removing it and making the space usable and functional, we just filled it up with more shit, right? Like we didn't actually do the full work. We didn't actually do the full work that got us to that place of healing. We got to the place where it was cosmetically from one side done. And what I know about that is that those shortcuts do not serve the greater good of the whole that we know that we're serving. We have to be willing to go all the way. We can't be willing to just stop when we think that it's good enough. And so we've had this conversation over and over the last few weeks. Zephyr's like, well, what if all that rubble, what if we just leave it there? And then, maybe if we have to move it later, we'll move it later. And I'm like, no, we're going to do it all of the way. We're not going to go just to that place where it seems like we've gotten far enough. We have to be willing to go all the way to that place of healing. And so what I know about this is that all of the shortcuts that we've taken have sometimes made us feel comfortable in the short term, but haven't served that greater whole that was seeking to come back together. And so there's this necessity then to do that kind of dissolving again, which is the uncomfortable part, right? The uncomfortable part is when we're being asked to let go of things, to really look at things, to look at the systems of injustice and oppression that we've participated in, to look at the ways in which our actions have affected others, often unintentionally, without realizing the harm that has been caused. And this then being willing to then let ourselves be put back together in this way that recognizes that there's a bigger whole calling to us. There's more power there. There's more power when we remember that we belong to one another. There's more power in our actions. There's more power in our systems. There's more power in everything when we remember this. But it requires some dissolving, and it feels so much like we're in that dissolving phase right now, where we're in that place where we're being asked to look deeper so that we can find those places where we've just made those cosmetic changes, where we haven't gone deeper into what really needs to be healed and transformed, where we haven't done that deeper work. And it's work, I tell you, it's work to be alive right now with other human beings. I tell you, I got to get into a argument with one of my cousins this week, and it's work. It's work to be in a willingness to stand in an undivided place and not be taken out of that by ignorance. And I just recognize that this work that we've been asked to do, though, is holy work. It is essential work. And that we've, on some level, signed up to be here right now to do this together. So there's a story about a farmer who went to tell the Buddha his problems. And he went to the Buddha and he described all of his difficulties farming and how either droughts or monsoons were constantly complicating his work. And he told the Buddha about his wife, and that even though he loved her, there were certain things about her that he wished to change. And likewise, his children, they were on the list too. He loved them, but they just weren't turning out quite the way he wanted them. And so when he was finished, he asked the Buddha to help him with his problems. And the Buddha said, well, I cannot help you. I'm very sorry. And the farmer said, what do you mean? You're supposed to be this great teacher. And the Buddha replied, sir, it's like this. all human beings have 83 problems. It is a fact of life. Sure, a few problems will go away now and then, but soon enough others will arise. So we'll always have 83 problems. So the farmer responded indignantly, well, then what's the good of all your teaching then? And the Buddha said, my teaching can't help you with the 83 problems, but it can help with the 84th problem. Well, what's that? Asked the farmer. And so then the Buddha said, the 84th problem is that you don't want to have any problems. And so that's where we are, right? Like, we got to get real about the fact that we have problems, right? That they exist. And that we have the power through our oneness to do something about them. That they will shift and change, that they will evolve, but that we actually have the power to practice this kind of sense of belonging to one another that actually transforms those problems, that changes them, that brings them to a higher place. And that it is actually our job to let go of the idea that we're not supposed to have problems, that we're not supposed to be in this thing of this constant shift and evolution, that we're not supposed to be fully human, that we're not supposed to be here practicing together. Like, we just got to give all that up, because when we give that up, then we start to access our compassion and our wisdom and our oneness in so much of a deeper way, because we're not trying to escape the problems. We only need to escape the idea that we shouldn't have any problems in the first place. And so as we bring ourselves back to this sense of wholeness, like the sense of oneness, I just know that we then start to make different choices, and we start to see things differently, and we start to see this sense of joy that comes from remembering that we belong to everything. So Mark Nepo has a piece that starts with quote from the Sufi prophet Ghalib. For the raindrop, joy is entering the river. This is what Mark Nepo says. It is amazing to consider how as infants we are one with everything. In time, of course, we learn how to distinguish between ourselves and others, between the world we carry inside and the world we move through. But ironically, sages of all paths are those who, after lifetimes of experience, try to return to this primary state of oneness. When I think of the moments I have felt the most alive, they all have this quality of joining all of that which I keep inside with everything outside of me in a way that makes me forget myself. They all feel timeless and open-ended. Tenderly, the deepest moments of making love allow us to join in that oneness beyond ourselves, as do certain moments of being immersed in great music or great open spaces. I have also felt this after long periods of swimming or running, or after long periods of being healthfully alone. I feel it when discovering what it is I need to write. Joy, it seems, is the feeling of that oneness. Not surprisingly, it is a risk to love, the risk to give our full attention that lets what is eternal merge with what is eternal without. In those moments of oneness, we, as drops of spirit, join the larger river of spirit. And so it is a risk to be fully present that opens us to the oneness that allows through all things the way a spring brook flows from your acre through my fence, through my land, and on through my neighbor's fence and land. Just as that rush of water ignores all we have built in between, so wholeness of life moves through all of us, undermining all the walls we remain. It seems we always have a choice: to remain a builder of fences, or to enter the stream that ignores all fences. And so this is that practice, right? The practice that oneness allows us to encounter is where have we continued to build fences, and where have we allowed ourselves to enter the stream that then allows us to ignore those places of division, that allows us to use our energy to create something bigger. And I just feel like we've been asked to participate in the world in a way that holds that oneness in a bigger way. So we've been practicing this for a long time. Anyone who's been on the spiritual path has been practicing oneness and the principles behind it. And I have said over and over, while it's easy to talk about, it's a whole nother thing to practice. It's much more difficult to put it into action in the world. And we're being asked as people who've already been there to start to show the way of what's possible when we remember that, because we have to be able to somehow get through where we are, caring for one another in a way that then allows for what to emerge, that greater wholeness that wants to emerge to do so. So there's this other beautiful story. I'm on a kick about lions this morning and rivers, so here we go. There's a story about after the great rains, a lion was faced with crossing a river that had encircled him. But swimming wasn't in his nature, but it was either cross or die. And so the lion roared and charged at the river, almost drowning before he retreated. And many more times he attacked the river. And each time he failed to cross. And so eventually the lion lay down, and in his quietness, he heard the river say, "Never fight what isn't there." And so cautiously the lion looked up and asked, "What isn't there?" "Your enemy isn't there," answered the river. "Just as you are a lion, I am merely a river." And so now the lion sat very still and studied the ways of the river. And after a while, he walked up to a certain point where the current brushed the shore, and he stepped in and floated to the other side. And so this is the story, I believe, of how we get to where we are, how we get through to this other place that we know is possible, where we care for one another as if we remember that we belong to one another, as if we are one. We got to let go of the idea that there's something to fight. And we have to remember and that oneness teaches us that we don't have to fight what isn't there, and that we belong to this bigger thing that's trying to happen, and all we have to do is make ourselves one with it, and that it will carry us where it needs to carry us. And I think we just have to remember that in the midst of all of the things that we feel like we want to fight against, that there is in fact a greater river that is flowing through, that is asking for us to let us carry us, and that we actually have this wisdom inside of us that knows exactly how to do that, and that we've been studying the ways of this, and that we are ready to do so. So in the midst of everything that obviously needs to change and shift, there's also this opportunity to let go of the idea that we're not supposed to have any problems, and that there's anything that we need to fight against. And from there we find our real power. There we find the power to operate from this different place inside of us. And so I'm going to ask the band to come up, because I'm going to ask them to play a song to anchor us into prayer. But as we prepare the way for that, I just invite you to think about maybe some place where you are being asked to a deeper place of oneness, a deeper place of remembering that we belong to one another, so that a deeper healing can come, not just for yourself, but for this whole thing called life, where we remember your prayer is my prayer, and my prayer is your prayer, and your health is my health, and my health is your health. And your well-being and your abundance and your freedom and your justice and all of that is universal and is mine and is yours. And when we get there, that's where the magic happens. And so I'm going to ask you to think about that. Think about that call to oneness as we anchor in prayer. And please join me as we sing.
Our prayer of love lifts us, it heals us, sustains us, sets us
of today is a prayer of oneness, of recognizing the truth that we belong to one another, that we are connected, and that although we may seem separate, that if we go beneath the surface of things, we very quickly find our connection. And so I just know that that connection leads the way, that that oneness is where our real power comes from. And I let it show the way as we find a way to heal all that needs to be healed, so that we may truly take care of one another and this beautiful planet that we live on in a way that honors this truth that there is no separation between you and me. And I just know that whatever is stirring in each person is the stirring and the movement of the one, calling us forward in this new way so that we may be guided by this oneness and how it is that we care for one another, how we protect one another, how we love one another, how we heal together. And I just know that the one inside of each of us carries a part of this. And so I commit myself to my part, to the part of that transformation that is mine to do, to all of the places that I have separated myself from myself. I commit myself to a deeper look, a deeper walk with oneness there, so that I may no longer stand in the way of my own healing, and so that I may serve the healing of the greater good. And so I just know that the only way out is through. And I know that it is revealed in deeper and more powerful ways with every step we take, that oneness will guide us if we but let it. And so we let it. We let it move. We let it love. We let it show up. And we let it be. And so it is.
Our prayer lifts us high, heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer lifts us high, heals us, sustains us, sets us free. Our prayer lifts us high, heals us, sustains us, sets us.
Thank you, guys. So I want to thank everyone who's been loving and supporting this community from close by or afar through all these months that we've been figuring out how to meet or not meet and how all of that works. So we've gotten creative about how to do donations out here, and we've got baskets hanging from the trees if you'd like to make a contribution that way. Also, there's a spot on our website, onespiritualcenter.org, where you can make a donation there, and all of your donations make it so we can keep on supporting beautiful music and making this magic happen. So thank you for all of your love and support. We've got a couple of things coming up I want to let you know about. One is that we will be at Roadrunner Food Bank on the 4th Saturday of this month. We are there every 4th Saturday as a volunteer opportunity to do something together, and we will be there. We also have in the works an opportunity to be serving our homeless community in a new way. And I'll let you know a little bit more about that soon as the details get worked out. But if you weren't aware that there are some of the most vulnerable members of the community that lives at the West Side shelter have been moved out. Motorcycles. They're my friends. Some of the most vulnerable members have been moved out to another location to keep them safer during this time, and there's an opportunity for us to be providing meals for them so that they can even stay safer. So we're working on just all the logistics of that and making that happen in a good way. So make sure you keep your ears out for details on that if you're interested in helping with that. And there's just so many people in our community that we're praying for. So if you need some extra prayer support or love, please reach out, because I know that there's more than I know going on for people right now, and we're here to support and love you. So please reach out, and we will figure out how to care for one another, because we know we're one. So thank you for being here today. It's, like I said earlier, so nice to see some faces I have not seen for a while. What a joy that is. And I believe that we may sing our song. last blessing to sing to one another, and I forgot to mention that there are zucchinis and bagels today out here, so please help yourself to that. Let us bless one another.